Welcome to the Top Order podcast. RCB are into the final. We'll talk about the Punjab Kings and Mumbai Indians in their showdown to reach game 1017 of this IPL. We've got England cricket. Did the English get what they needed against Zimbabwe? The one-day internationals have already started for both men and women. And we've also got England Lions taking on India A. We'll also talk about the India Test squad, Shami out and Gill as the skipper. And if we've got time, we might indulge Stu with some talk about coaching news and central contracts for New Zealand cricket. All coming up on the Top Order podcast. Stay tuned. Well, boys, English summer well and truly underway now. We've had the first test of the summer at Trent Bridge, and ODI's kicking off before the test series against India, the big one in the English summer. Cricket on TV every night here, which is pretty nice. And we're coming to the end of 365 days of cricket in India as well. The IPL about to reach its climax. Obviously, that delay has elongated the tournament by a couple of weeks or so.
About 10 days or something.
Yeah,
week, maybe.
So we've had a few players flying in and out, some notable replacements that have put some runs on the board. I noticed Johnny Bairstow got a score when he should have been playing for Yorkshire. But we've
could have been playing for England.
Yeah, not quite. We've got that eliminator game, haven't we? This afternoon, I think 3 p.m. UK time, which is 2 a.m. in New Zealand or something like that.
Correct.
Nailed it.
But that's going to be a repeat of the game, Raj, you were saying, that took place, 4 or 5 days ago in the group stages. So you've got MI firmly inked in to win on the basis that they lost the last one. They'll win this one. They're in the final. And then presumably they lift the trophy as well because it's an odd numbered year. Is that right?
It's possible. It's possible, but there's another team on the other side that's already made it through that probably wants to win quite a lot. But no, I think it's well placed. It's a good what do you call it? You call it an eliminator. It's a good eliminator to watch. Exciting game, sort of 5 games ago. Maybe it's 2 weeks ago now, but it was still about 5 games ago. And look, the big thing for me is that we picked Mumbai Indians about 9 games ago and they won 7. And their stock shot through the roof, and I think it's going to keep going. What do you make of it?
Oh, look, I mean, yes, it's hard to look past this Mumbai team. When it's tricky, isn't it? Because I think 2 weeks ago we looked at this and went GT and Mumbai are the form teams. That week gap really did disrupt things. It obviously for GT, which we might talk about in a little bit, it meant that people were gone. It meant that, they lost a bit of momentum. They lost a couple of games. And suddenly Mumbai and GT were, the 2 teams that were really hot, best form going into that break. Suddenly now they have to face off in this game, a knockout game. And, only one of them could go through. Mumbai went through. I mean, if we're going to talk about all the stars, there were a number of them in that game. But it's still Bumrah, isn't it? I mean, he's the one that always seems to make the difference. I know that, the batters, Rohit's really, that was another good innings from him, even though, I mean, GT, how many catches do they want to drop? That was very disappointing. But it seems like with Bumrah, it's so unfair because they can kind of use him in lots of different ways. Bolt gets that first wicket of Gill, and then they're able to just go, okay, well, GT's got a little score here. Now we'll bring on Bumrah for a tight over. And then GT goes, starts getting another partnership. Sudharsan gets going. Oh, we'll just bring Bumrah on for another tight over. Oh, we need a wicket. We'll just bring Bumrah on and he'll bowl one of the best balls of the tournament to clean up Washington Sundar. So, I mean, it's hard to go past a team with him in the side, isn't it, really?
Are you sure it's Bumrah? I'm sure I heard you last week saying it was all about Mitchell Santner.
Well, yeah, that was very nice to see him come back and take 3 for, and I think it was about 3 for 5 or something, wasn't it, last week? But yeah, I mean, and then you go to a game, yes, that eliminator or whatever it was called, and he bowls 1 over. Although very entertaining over. What do you feel about the hit wickets? Are you a big fan of hit wicket, Baldy? Because Al Mendes basically just fell and completely destroyed all 3 stumps, which is something I enjoy a lot, especially if you're the bowler.
I'm a big fan of unintentional comedy in any sporting event, and any time a hit wicket transpires where a player just destroys all 3 stumps, sort of Brett Lee style, that's a win for me. I want to talk about the finish to the season for Gujarat, because you mentioned that they dropped Rohit. It was Kusal Mendes behind the stumps who replaced Jos Buttler. Nowhere is it more evident in that little tiny microcosm of that one ball how much they missed Jos Buttler in the back end of this season. Yes, they missed his run scoring. In fact, they probably missed his run scoring as much as anything else, because at number 3, he was 1/3 of that magical engine room for Gujarat that got them to within, one game or half a game of being in the final potentially. But him not being able to come back and play those last couple of weeks of the season, it really cost Gujarat, I think, in terms of their batting momentum and also behind the stumps. We lament sometimes the lack of quality in wicket keepers, and will it ever cost a team a big game? This cost Gujarat the opportunity to play in a final. This is the defining moment of you need a good wicketkeeper in your side, because it wasn't a particularly difficult chance in my view. It's one that should be taken.
Both of them he should take, really.
Both of them should be taken. So, it's a real miss for Gujarat, and it's not their fault. Global political circumstances have conspired, if you like, or been worked their way into the ability for players to not be able to make it back to the IPL. And I don't blame Jos Buttler at all. It's very difficult, but they missed him.
I'm sure it all adds up, but I guess if I had to lay some blame, it would be more at the bowlers' feet. In terms of the last few games, last 3 or 4 games, I'm not sure how many it was, the batters were always chasing over 200.
Started conceding lots of runs.
Had to set 200 in order to sort of get anywhere near, and they got beaten.
Scores got higher once the IPL restarted. So I don't know if it was batters just having some time off and figured it out, or wickets had
different venues as well.
Yeah. Wickets had time to recover, different venues, whatever. But scores were definitely bigger after we came back from the break.
The players they had though, Siraj, Rabada, Krishna, Rashid Khan, Sai Kishore. It's not a terrible bowling lineup,
Good
GT,
bowling lineup.
And they really struggled. I thought they were the best team all round, actually. Their batters went great guns the whole tournament, really. Someone was scoring runs, but the bowlers after the break didn't seem to come back strongly.
No, and I think if you're going to say, probably the thing that everyone talked about for GT all season was, do they have the runs after that top 3? And can their bowlers do this game after game after game to restrict? And you took out Jos Buttler, you took out Kagiso Rabada, and you replaced them with Gerald Coetzee, and you replaced them with Kusal Mendes. And, unfortunately, I like Coetzee, I like Kusal Mendes. They're both good players. But unfortunately, in that big game, they were the 2 that dropped 3 catches. Coetzee went, air miles. It just didn't work out for those guys. And when GT had to try and find some runs after, Gill goes early, suddenly Shafane Rutherford, Tuatia, those guys just couldn't build enough. Shahrukh Khan, they couldn't put one of them needed to go on and get 50. One of them need to stay there. Sundar comes in and gets 48. One of them then needs to go on and kick on. I mean, they were in a good enough position to win. Baldy was messaging us saying, how do you lose from here? And I don't know if I subscribe to that. I think that they were. It wasn't a how do we lose from here situation. But they were in a situation where someone gets going, someone hits a quick 30 here, and you've won this game.
All they needed 12s with 7 wickets in hand and 4 overs. That's at least momentum in favour of the batting side, right?
Yes.
But Sai was the big wicket.
Yep.
He was dismissed for 80, and then after then it was a bit of a procession, and no one could really get going and get the pace of the wicket in the back end.
Can we talk a little bit about the Punjab Kings?
Sure.
Stu, you've been quite hot on them all season. After the performance they put up when it matters in that first qualifier, how confident do you feel about them going into this game?
It was a big shock to see them go. They've been a really consistent side. Their batting lineup's been, pretty consistent as well, and so much. It's been different people all season for them. That they've got the 2 openers, then they've got Shreyas Iyer, they've got Shashank Singh down the bottom, they've got Josh Inglis has come in now and been able to contribute. Stoinis even scored 40 odd there, just before the playoffs. So they've got a number of different guys who've been contributing, and then they just get totally rolled. And I mean, probably you have to throw it back to RCB. And I mean, you must be pumped about how RCB, it's been a long time. We talked right at the start of the tournament. They completely changed their. I think they changed their mindset in terms of what they wanted to do in the auction. It's always been about the big names, you've always thought, okay, like it's the glory names that everyone's going to want to come and see, and we're going to go out and get a lot of runs, and we're going to, we can deal with everything else. We can find enough. But instead, they picked a number of different players to fill gaps in their side. And when you now look through that team, every game, it's kind of a different person who contributes. Josh Hazlewood's obviously been the big name and a huge in for him or for RCB that he's said, I'm going to stick around. This is good, good training for me. I'm bowling the exact same lengths that I will be in the World Test Championship final. I'm just bowling the same spot, so it's great. But a lot of other people have left, and he's said, I'm going to stay. But yeah, like I said, so many different people contributing, and now they're in the final for the first time since 2016, I think.
Yeah, I guess I'll even sort of boil it back into a more simplified version of that, where I think that they've been able to chase whatever they've, can they chase it? Yes, they can. Will they chase it? I don't know. Their big sort of, the thing that's been holding them back is their bowling, and especially wickets at the top of the order. Siraj had a terrible season last year with that new ball. Josh Hazlewood has been really a revelation for them. Him coming back into the side. He was away for a couple of games.
Yeah, missed a couple of games.
Coming back into the side, he took 3 for in that game just before the... he took 3 for in
this game against Punjab.
One.
Yeah,
and look, he has been the key to me to their success. They don't now have to win the game with the bat. The bowlers can do the job, just like we saw against Punjab King in that qualifier. They restricted them to 100. It made Virat, Kohli and Co.'s life very easy. So I think they've added another string to their bow in terms of how can they win games. That's what I think their biggest improvement has been, is that they've given themselves other ways to win.
And I mean, you have to give credit to Kohli as well. I think 850s now in this tournament. I mean, I don't know where he is on the purple cap ranking. He's not first and second, because I think that's Sai Sudharsan and Sky, but Kohli must be right up there as well. He's been super consistent. Yeah, fantastic season from him.
Yeah, I think as well, Phil Salt coming in, because he had a month where he obviously didn't play and has scored runs each time he's played. So that top of the order looks pretty solid. Pretty solid for them as well. Daring to dream, Raj, for the silverware.
Yep. Look, I think that this is the best chance RCB's had in a very, very long time. They've got they had a little bit of a break. Maybe that'll ice them out. I don't know. But I think this is the best chance they've had to win a championship in a long, long time.
Have you noticed, Binksy, how up these two are in this pod? I mean, Raj has got two bites of the cherry here. He's got RCB, and he predicted that Mumbai were going to go good. So he's got those two. And then Lipshaw here has been on the Punjab Kings train the whole time.
I think you even laughed at me when I said they might make the playoffs. I think you kind of laughed out loud.
Mate, you were right.
I wasn't so right about the Sunrisers, although the Sunrisers showed what everyone showed us what they should have done.
They were a day late and $1 short, the Sunrisers, quite frankly, and very disappointing. But
I'd forgotten we'd made the predictions, if I'm perfectly honest, because it was in about 2021, I think, that we did that preview show. Let's talk a little bit about, and look, before we get, we probably already have about 27 billion comments, but it's not an eliminator, it's a qualifier. This game coming up. So Mumbai Indians and the Punjab Kings, they played on about a week ago, didn't they? 26th, 25th, something like that. Mumbai Indians getting their 184 chased down. How much of a barometer is that for what's going to happen today? What do we read into it? Who do we think's hot and not? In terms of some of the personnel across those two teams.
If I had to jump in, I think that teams that have a little bit more experience in these sort of big knockout games seem to sort of rise to the top. The cream rises there. I think I read that Punjab have no internationals in their top 4, or very...
Shreyas, but...
Apart from Shreyas, they have very few. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think they've got very few in terms of, big game players, big game performances that have already happened. I think they're going to have to provide something out of the norm to win this game. I wouldn't have predicted, but I'm not surprised that they fell apart in that first knockout game. I'm not surprised that they were bowled out for not much. I could see the same thing happening here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think if you look through the lineups, you're going Mumbai's got the better side on paper, even though they're missing Rickleton, Jacks, they're missing a couple of guys now, but they've been able to, like you say, bring in some handy replacements and sort of fill out that side. And then, the likes of Rohit, Sky, Tilak Varma, Hardik, Namandir, even, and then you go into the bowlers of Jasprit and Bolt and Santner. Yeah, they're an absolutely stacked side. You can't, if I had to pick one of them, I'm going to pick them. But I will be disappointed if Punjab don't make a good showing of themselves, because I think they have had a fantastic season. I think all the three sides that are left have had really good seasons. Even GT, I think all four sides really showed this was a pretty strong IPL. Even like we say, Sunrisers were terrible, but when they got it going in the back half of the tournament, this final week, they demolished everyone. So, there's been 6 or 7 sides. Delhi was carving up at the start of the tournament. They were winning against everyone. LSG was in form at different times. So, the teams that have got this far have had to be good to get there. But, I think if we're going to... If you're going to make me pick, I'm going to stick with Mumbai.
I can't believe you managed to fit the Sunrisers in there somehow. You've got to play well for the 300 other games, not just the last week.
It was pretty fun watching them smash everybody, though, wasn't it? Abhishek Sharma smashing the car window. Heinrich Klaassen finally, getting a big send off.
They're no longer part of the conversation. So
Okay,
let's move on. Go on, Baldy, give us your thoughts.
Well, I don't really want to say anything, because if I say anything about how good Mumbai are going, I'll jinx them. If I say anything about how good Punjab are going, I'll jinx them.
You realise that you have absolutely no bearing on the result by what you say.
No.
Why don't you just say positive things about both of them?
I'm going to say, I'm going to say positive things about Mumbai, because I think the form that Rohit is in and the consistency that Sky is bringing them is potentially the difference maker. I can see a scenario where, if Punjab are going to win, the two openers are going to have to make big scores, I think.
Well, at least one of them needs to go, and then you get Shreyas,
and then Shreyas and Inglis are going to have to, provide at least one of them is going to have to get 70 off 35 balls.
And then Shashank goes bang at the end,
and you can see that being a formula for them to get to 210, and then they've got to take 3 wickets. They have to take
Arshdeep has to get a couple early.
They have to get Rohit early. They have to get Sky for under 35.
What about your man Johnny?
And well, he's a bit of an X factor. I don't see him getting 76 off 35 and winning them the game without help from Rohit, Sky, and Hardik, right? I can see him getting 76 off 35, but I can't see them winning the game if those other three also don't step up and get big runs. For Mumbai, I think the key actually for them is to take a couple of wickets at the top of the order. I think it's Bolt in his first over, taking a couple of those early wickets of those young, relatively inexperienced openers, and then putting a bit of consistent scoreboard pressure on throughout the game and just turning the screw on an inexperienced Punjab side that, yes, Shreyas has been there before, yes, Josh Inglis has been there before, but collectively, have they got enough experience to stand up against those battle-tested Mumbai players? That's where I'd be. If I was Mumbai, I'd be just going, guys, we just got to keep turning the screw. And if it gets tight...
And when you want to do that, you've got to bring Bumrah on for one of those overs.
We've got 4 overs of the best bowler on the planet.
If you can take wickets without having to use Bumrah, that's a real trump card. And then it allows guys like Santner to just sort of hold up one end and make them have to score off someone like Bumrah, which is just not going to happen. But if there is a line for Johnny Bairstow anywhere over 75, you should take unders after Baldy's rant there.
You can take unders. I'm going to throw a jinx on the whole thing and just add my 2 cents on the Johnny Bairstow piece, right? He is always a better player when he's got something to prove. So when Mumbai make the final against the RCB, Phil Salt, if you'll recall, took the gloves for England and arguably took Bairstow's spot in that squad. If that's the matchup, he will be fired up as you like, as they say around these parts. Get some money on some runs in the final from Bairstow if that happens. But some really useful little pickups for this last little bit of the tournament in terms of some of those overseas players that that have come in, and Inglis has really just started to fire as well, hasn't he, Baldy? I think as well, which is good from an Australian perspective. And I didn't comment at the time, but Jos Buttler, for the first time on an England balcony, actually looked like he wanted to be there and looked really, really happy in the one day, which we'll probably talk about. And I think you probably got to take a lot of credit from his IPL, hopefully making him fall back in love with the game, because he looked like he was one loss away from hanging up the gloves and starting a yoga studio or something when he was finishing off as England skipper. Shall we move on from the IPL, or move on from the IPL? Let's talk a little bit leading into the India Test squad, but there's some cricket going on in England from a Test perspective against Zimbabwe. I'm keen to get the neutrals' view, and then obviously I'll have a few hot takes, I think, on England and how that's prepped as well for the series against India. But what did you guys think of that game?
I thought it was incredibly dry. Was my first thought. I started watching that first.
Not rained.
Yeah, has it just not rained all summer? Because you looked at that field and it was just brown. It's not what you normally see on an English ground.
Nah, it's been dry. Yes, very dry. I was trying to think of an analogy that was appropriate and I couldn't. So it's been dry, very dry. Dry as a bone, as they say.
But otherwise, I mean, pretty good toss to lose, I would say. And then I don't know, probably from an England point of view, at least on the batting side, you've got everything you wanted out of that game, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, how much can you really take out of it? This is akin to the longest yard, where they've the prison guards have a tune-up game against the mean machine, but the mean machine actually did well. This is a bit different. I mean, this was a tune-up game for the season. Maybe that's being a bit rude to Zimbabwe, but it was, and that's how it played out. There were big runs for the top three throughout, and some great bowling for the spinners, probably due to the dryness. I think the only real talking point is that the fast bowlers seemed a little bit toothless. But how many of these guys who played in that team, aside from Atkinson, are in the plans for this season and the Ashes and all of that? But that's the only real talking points for me. But I don't think you can take. It's great. Tick. We've done well as a side, but I don't think you can draw anything from it if you're a selector or anything like that.
That's interesting. I mean, I'd probably good for you to jump in now, Binksy, because I mean, I think when I looked at what England needed out of that game, I think Crawley needed runs. I think Pope needed runs, just because Bethel's kind of been on the how well he did in that game against, or the series against New Zealand. Matt Henry had Crawley on toast for some reason, or not for some reason. Ollie Pope's always seems to be under pressure no matter what. I mean, he's had a couple of important innings in New Zealand, but I went back and looked at his test list, his innings lists, and it's just so inconsistent. Like, I mean, you must know that probably as an England fan, Binksy, but he scores 100 and then you have like 6 failures and then he'll score another runs. And so I think just for getting those guys runs must have been a big tick in what we need to achieve in this game.
I'm interested about the Ollie Pope thing from you, Binksy, because he is averaging over 40, which we know it does mean something.
He's averaging 35
What's he averaging?
in Test cricket. 35 in Test cricket.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted you to bring that up. So he's struggling a little bit with the bat. But no, I actually think that he's always sort of struggled to cement his spot in that side. McCullum seems to want him to bat at 3. Stokes goes ahead and says, what did he say? He said, put 2 and 2 together around the Jacob Bethel questions, which the media did, and he thinks that the media got wrong. Do you think Jacob Bethel's walks back into this? Or do you think that Ollie Pope's 134,000 not out against Zimbabwe is going to help him cement a spot in that side for the rest of the summer?
Yeah, so I think that the broader question, did England get what they needed from this game? No, they didn't. And they got some questions that they probably didn't want to have to answer. And the Ollie Pope one is one of them. Because at the end of the day, Jacob Bethel has not yet scored 100 in any professional cricket. So just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
We've got a guy and with an undoubted amount of talent, and the knock he played. I don't know if you saw the one-day international against West Indies, mate. He looks so good in that game, like just generational talent. So that's created a really, really big headache. But then, how do you drop a guy that scored 170 in a test? Who, to be fair to him, has done everything that he's been asked to do. He's been asked to bat at 3 when maybe he didn't want to. He's been asked to keep wicket to balance the side in Pakistan and in New Zealand when they've left out folks, or Jordan Cox was injured, or whatever set of permutations that you want. And he's also the vice captain as well, and captained in Stokes' absence. So I think they want him in and around that side. And then Raj Stokes' comments, I mean, wow, they got some news media cycles out of that, didn't they? Put 2 and 2 together. Oh, I didn't mean that. I meant put 3 and 2 together. Day 3. Oh, you've got a twisted agenda, the media. What's their twisted agenda? Like that he said 2 and 2 together, and they've put 2 and 2 together and made a sum that Stokes didn't think was the sum of 2 and 2. And look, regardless, Bethel comes into that squad as the spare batter. They've had Jordan Cox floating around. They've brought various people into the mix. Bethel's naturally, I think, the spare batter there. But yes, a lot more questions from that perspective. But the bigger question for me, I think, from this game is with the seamers. I really, really like Josh Tongue. I think he's the one guy that operates above 145 kilometres an hour, or 85 miles an hour in old money. Gus Atkinson, I think, has got a hamstring. I think it's a hamstring. It remains to be seen how that comes back. If he's a batter, it's a different story. But yeah, as a bowler, I'm told that you need your hamstrings, particularly to bowl quick. But then Sam Cook is the other conundrum for us. He'd have been coming into the Test match thinking, "What a wonderful world." I was
waiting for that.
I don't necessarily think he's actually answered that argument. I actually thought his first spell was pretty good, but then when I reflect on it, he had a couple that got edged through the slips, a couple of inside edges that just missed the stumps, and you kind of go, "Oh, he's unlucky." And I mean this with all due respect, which means I mean no respect whatsoever, obviously. It was against Zimbabwe. So if he's unlucky at 77 miles an hour against Zimbabwe, at 77 miles an hour against India, he's probably just going to be not good enough, is my view. So they haven't really answered that question. I think there's definitely some nerves there. So I think he probably gets another go at some point during the summer. But yeah, those are the big questions for me. And then the one question I've got for you, Stu, is the media here, a hell of a lot of comment around Shoaib Bashir. Now, we know that Shoaib Bashir cannot get a game of county cricket for his home county, Somerset, because Jack Leach is there. So he's been out on loan at a couple of different... I think he was on loan at Worcestershire for a bit. He's been on loan at Glamorgan this year. I can't think of a scenario where someone is not in the best, 18 first-class spinners because they can't get a game for their own county, but then are inked in to play for their country. But how well did he bowl for his 5 for or 6 for in that second innings? And is he a Test match off spinner in your view?
I mean, honestly, I think the funny thing is that you ask me this every time we talk about him, and that's not a criticism on you. I think it's a criticism on, it's not a criticism at all. It's how we are ending up talking about Shoaib Bashir because of all these other things, and because I think everyone's trying to predict, like, what is he going to be? Is all this time we're putting into him going to be worth it? Because, and I actually think all of that is so counterproductive. We've got to go, what is he now? And what he is now is nowhere near the finished product. And that's why he can't get a game for these counties, I'm sure, because he's not consistent. He can't run up and bowl. He can't run up and bowl enough deliveries in the right area to build pressure on the best players in the world. And we've kind of seen that he was able to pick up wickets. Look, there's absolutely no doubting that he can bowl a wicket-taking ball. He bowled quite a few of them in this game. Bowled those 2 beautiful ones through the gate, bowled a couple of really nice ones, catch the edge of the left-handers, bowled, nice LBW on the left-handers. Like, he can bowl a wicket-taking ball. Gets bounce. He's able to pick up wickets. There's no question about that. But I don't know, he bowled a whole bunch of full tosses to start his spells. He was bowling half volleys. Like, he's going to... those are the things that he's got to improve. And I think all the... the media, again... Everyone is asking, like they always ask Stokes, like, "Oh, what do you think? How well do you think he's going?" I almost think you've got to just put all of that aside and just go, okay, well, it's quite clear he needs to improve his accuracy and his consistency. And if they want to stick with it, like they've decided they're sticking with him. It's sort of a silly question. If they wanted a consistent bowler now, they'd be picking Jack Leach because he can do that. He can run in and bowl consistently. He showed that for quite a long time, that he was able to do that and do a nice job of it. But they've gone, we want someone who we think has a much higher ceiling. But to get there, Shoaib Bashir is going to have to be a lot more consistent, and he's not at the moment.
Okay.
Consistency as an off spinner. Yeah, go for it, Binksy.
Yeah, I've got a follow up on that, Philip. So if I kind of look at the stats, right, and this is mind boggling. He's bowled 6,024 deliveries in first class cricket. 3,355 of those, so well over half, are in Test cricket. My question, can he develop that consistency when he's only playing Test cricket? Or, as the media, and particularly if you listen to the older school English pundits, and probably Jonathan Agnew is the one who says he needs to play 5 seasons of county cricket and bowl 10,000 deliveries and make sure he's on the motorway at every single possible opportunity outside of playing cricket, travel to another game. I'm being slightly facetious. But my question is, can he develop that consistency by just bowling in the nets and being in the Test side? Or does he need to go and play a significant amount of first-class cricket to learn that craft?
Normally, I'm very much in favour of you need to play. I think if we saw someone like Ajaz Patel and how he developed here in New Zealand, he did exactly that. He went to county, our first class cricket. He bowled a truckload of overs. He was the leading wicket taker in first class cricket in New Zealand for a few years, got his opportunity at the Test level and was absolutely ready to take that opportunity. He knew his game inside out. I don't think Shoaib Bashir knows his game inside out. I don't think you can say that about him. But I think for Shoaib Bashir, funnily enough, I actually don't mind that they're doing this in terms of Test level, because I think when you look at how he's performed mentally in Test cricket, he's absolutely there. I'm not like, I don't think there's any fear or doubt about his own. I don't think we saw when he was, playing in India, I don't think he's worried about that environment. And I think the key thing is he does need to bowl those overs. I don't know why he's not getting those opportunities in county cricket. I don't know, like I said, he's probably not bowling consistently enough to do it. But I don't have a solution for that. And if they think he's the number one spinner in England, or the most likely to take wickets in England, then they have to keep picking him in Test cricket, because that's where he's getting these deliveries. It does mean that you have to bowl him in Test cricket, and to Ben Stokes' credit, he always does give him lots and lots of overs. So, look, I'm not as much, I'm not critical of them for doing that, but I think we actually have to look like he's going to be bowling loads and loads and loads of overs in the nets. I assume, obviously don't see those trainings, but I hope that what they're doing is working on all of these little improvements, because it's just little things he's got to improve. It's not like he needs to make a total overhaul of his game. He just needs to be able to bowl the ball in the same spot 6 times, then another 6, then another 6, to build the pressure on the best batters in the world. That's how spinners are able to do it. And at the moment, he's not been able to do that for long enough, in my opinion. But even still, he's able to get, he's been able to pick up wickets at different times.
He's definitely a tremendous talent. He's not going to be the finished product until he's 27, 28 at best.
Maybe not.
At the absolute earliest. He's got 5 or 6 years of learning his craft, learning match situations, understanding how to bowl in different conditions, different circumstances, different match situations, all that stuff. The only way he gets better at that aspect of his game is to play matches. And I don't think he should be playing county cricket at the expense of Test cricket by any means. But the ECB or someone needs to find a scenario where Shoaib Bashir can get regular county cricket. It doesn't even need to be on a good surface for him. He just needs to be able to get regular county cricket and be able to bowl 15 overs a day for that side in each innings and learn his game in the county scene. Not at the expense of Test cricket, but he needs to be able to address those issues of consistently by bowling at first-class level, bowling lots of overs at first-class level. He's not going to improve match situation execution under pressure in the nets because there's nothing riding on missing in the nets, right? A batter will treat you very differently in the nets to the way he does in the game because for the batter in the nets, there's no jeopardy. For the bowler in the nets, there's no jeopardy. But in a match situation, when you're going to get hooked by your captain, if you drop short or bowl 3 or 4 full bungers in your first spell, then that's actual jeopardy for Bashir. So those are the situations that he's got to master as a young bowler. But England fans, media, and thankfully the players and coaches are already on board with this. He needs 4 or 5 years before he is anywhere near ready as an international cricketer. I think it's fantastic that England have picked him early in his career, but they've got to stick with him. And I'm glad he's got McCullum as a coach and Stokes as a captain, because of anyone in world cricket, I think they're the guys best placed to be able to identify young talent and nurture it and give him the leeway and the opportunity to make those mistakes at international level in order to grow his game. Because you're right, Stu, he is tremendously talented. He's the kind of guy who can extract bounce out of a surface in Australia. He's the kind of guy who can turn the ball sideways in India. I think he's got a tremendous future potentially ahead of him if the selectors stick with him and if he can find a way to get consistent first-class cricket.
I know Binksy wants to jump in here, but I would just say that I agree with you, but I actually think that if there's a better spinner in England that they think is going to take more wickets, they should absolutely pick that player for Test cricket. I don't think they have to just stick with him for 5 years to get this. But it's just the fact. I mean, I'm getting the impression that they don't think there is another spinner that can take more wickets in Test cricket at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is that they're looking at it as who's going to take the most wickets, and I think that they think that Bashir's ability to do that is greater than anybody else's. That they think that Leach, I'm sure, if Bashir was injured or were going to Pakistan or India, they're going to take Hartley or Leach, and they're going to get from Leach that consistency, but someone that probably doesn't put as much on the ball, I guess. The sort of synergy I draw is with Graham Swan. So Graham Swan was actually on an England tour, I think in 2001, 2 or something like that, and didn't really then start to play until 10 years later. He said what he needed to do was go away, and he actually went to Nottinghamshire. He was at Northamptonshire, where it was an absolute Bunsen, and they used to play 3 spinners. And he said, I didn't really learn until I actually went to Trent Bridge and played on a really flat wicket and had to bowl a lot more consistently to take my wickets. Raj, you're going to jump in, but Baldy, one word answer. The Ashes is coming up in November, December. Who are Australia going to be more scared about? Shoaib Bashir on the plane or Jack Leach, which is the other real option? Like, who would you rather be facing?
I think the Australians would rather face Jack Leach.
It's not one word. It wasn't one word.
Well, I can't say Jack Leach or Shoaib Bashir.
Leach. Bashir. Leach.
So you said Leach.
Yeah.
Binksy, can I ask you a question? Because we don't get much cricket news here, let alone England cricket news. Is there actually any hype for any other spinner at that spot at the moment?
Yeah, so not probably in the mainstream cricket media. I think if you go and look at some of the badges, Jack Carson down at Sussex, who is an off spinner. But yeah, have a jump on YouTube because that's how you discover cricketers now. YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat. You don't need to. Yeah. So Jack Carson.
The reason I've asked.
And then Rayan Ahmed is the other one, and then Rayan Ahmed's brother as well, who bowls office, is the other one. And I think, he's in and around that Lions squad. Not playing. The reason I
ask is I actually think that England cricket or whoever's running that setup has done a great job of cementing Bashir as that guy. And then he puts out performances like he has against Zimbabwe on a pitch that was less English, shall we say, than normal. And, I'd wager that in the fullness of his career, more of his wickets are going to come away versus at home. If he plays 50%, obviously. I think that I like the fact that they pick him to play and he bowls. If you think about guys like you mentioned, other spinners, I think of Jeetan Patel and how long he spent mixing Gatorade, not actually getting a crack. Meanwhile, you saw what he could actually do on the pitch when he went into county cricket, later in his career. And he didn't actually get to show it. He just sat there at 12th man for a long, long time. So that's what I think England cricket's done a great job of. Not only is Bashir going to be bowling those overs in the nets, he is actually going to be getting match practice. And it's about finding that balance. And I'm not sure that he's going to be at his most effective best in the county game because of the wickets that they tend to play on. I think him being on those harder, a little bit more bouncy pitches in the international game might actually serve him a little bit better. But I like that he is the guy. They are just picking him. I don't really hear, like when Jack Leach was in the team, we heard about a whole heap of other spinners that were there getting picked out of nowhere. This seems to me, from what I'm hearing, is it's just Bashir is the guy, which I like.
Binksy, you mentioned the Lions before. Question for you. I mean, that's been.
Can I just talk about one or two macro things with this England test before we move on to the Lions? At the risk of extending this podcast, I think there are tremendous takeaways for England from this test match, in that whenever anti-Bazballites criticise England, they criticise England for being all flash or all cattle and all hat and no cattle, right?
Okay.
All sizzle and no steak. This was a game where...
These need North Queensland terms?
No, they're American terms, and I don't know why I used them.
Sorry.
All hat and no cattle?
Yeah, and all sizzle and no steak. I don't know why they came to my mind.
Never heard the hat one before. Anyway, you see we shouldn't extend the podcast.
No. But England are criticised for not being ruthless when they are on top. In this game, England got on top and were ruthless. They were absolutely clinical and professional. Everyone who got an opportunity took their opportunity. Other than Sam Cook, whose trees might not be quite so green, all of the England players who got an opportunity took their opportunity. The top order made runs. I am particularly impressed with Shoaib Bashir, who got a wicket that was in his favour and an opportunity to run through a side, and ran through a side in the second innings and got 6 for. Massive tick for me for him. All of the England players who were presented with an opportunity to dominate the game, none of them gave up by getting a pretty 30 and then hitting one to cover.
Joe Root.
Well,
that guy.
He's got 17,000 test runs. I think he's allowed to hit one to cover.
He came in 1,000 for 3 or 1,000 for 2 or whatever.
And in the 12th over. So I mean, he was okay. But all the other guys, I think, did a really good job of being professional rather than putting entertainment in front of the result. So big marks to England for me for that one.
So, Binksy, I was just going to say that Lions test, we're seeing quite a lot of runs. It's only day 2 that we've seen so far. We've seen a ton of runs, and you just talked about the bowlers. The bowling attack that we're seeing for the Lions it's obviously not the test. It's not the test lineup. It's not the ODI lineup because there's a whole bunch of players going on in that series as well. Where does that make it? Is this England A? Is this England C? Is this how close? Sometimes when New Zealand plays a game, sets up a warm-up game, it's actually the players that don't play county cricket normally or first-class cricket here in New Zealand. Where are we on the level? Because I saw Josh Hull in there, but I didn't recognise many of the other names. And I suppose my question asking that is, again, how much should we sort of take from what India A is doing, because there are a number of players in that side that are sort of pushing for different spots?
Yeah, lots of questions in there, Lip. So, yeah, look, it's not necessarily the next best 11 for England. You reference, obviously, we're playing a white ball series. You know, you'd argue that there's a couple of guys in that side that weren't in the Test side, your likes of your Bryden Casters, etc., that would be in an England A team. I think what this really talks to from an England perspective is we have now, I think, got this. I have to say, I think it just blows my mind that we've got a coach and a setup that is so informal with Brendan McCullum, but the engine behind it is actually really, really well developed now. Our pathways scheme here and the strength in depth that we have, I think, I don't know enough about Australian cricket, but we talk a hell of a lot about how much strength in depth there is in India. I'd say England have got really good strength in depth as well for a population of 50 million people. And some of these guys, I think, are very much on the radar. And I think the other thing that I would just say there is, Brendan McCullum's not shy of seeing something in someone in 20 minutes and going, that's what we need in the Test side. We're going to back them, as they've done with, someone like a Shoaib Bashir, as they're going to do with someone like a Jacob Bethel, I'm sure, over the course of this summer. So there's 2 or 3 guys in there. So James Rue is probably one of them, keeper batter, 10 first-class hundreds before the age of 14 or something. Dan Mousley, I think, has had some white ball success for Warwickshire, really good player. Rayan Ahmed, we know a little bit about, and Josh Hull. So there's 3 or 4 straight away there that I think are, we could see feature in some full England side even this summer, over the course of the one-day internationals and the Test series. And then there's a couple of other guys that are in there, like a Ben McKinney at Durham. There was talk of, if they were going to give Crawley the arse, that he might be the guy that would come in as an opening batter, as the form opening batter in the county championship. So a little bit of a mixture of some probably long-term picks that have been in those pathways, and then 2 or 3 guys that are doing good things in county cricket, the likes of your Tom Haines, Emilio Gay, etc. Some strength, some strength there. And then I think you mentioned the India piece, Karun Nair getting a couple of hundred. And then, Sarfraz, who we all like, I think, as a batter. And Dhruv Jurel, who we talked a lot about, impressive debut for India with the gloves and the bat, and then some runs in the IPL as well. So, and what I also like is that countries are willing to do this now in the lead up to a Test series, that they have that A series and a bit of reciprocal back scratching, so that you can get your players in form, and that's only going to make for better Test cricket, isn't it? Whereas previously, particularly in Australia, I mean, they were just the most horrible people when they did this kind of stuff. You bring your A team over, and they'd go, all right, you can go and play on this wicket in Townsville or somewhere like that, or go to Darwin, and then they just come and ambush you at Brisbane on a completely different pitch. So it's nice to see that, some people value the game higher than the results.
Cooperation.
Yeah, exactly.
Adam Binks' statement straight out of the England Test team press book there for you.
Are we going to talk about India?
Yeah.
Oh, we have to.
This squad is interesting, eh? Well, Karun Nair, has he just banked himself a Test recall?
Well, I think they want to play him. They want to play Karun Nair. They're talking about experience. They're using that word. We've lost Kohli. We've lost Rohit Sharma. We need some experience in that sort of top 4. I think if he continues to score runs like this, if he can sort of get a couple more knocks in him in the innings they've got before the first Test, I think they'll play him. I don't know at whose expense, but I think that they are looking to have an experienced batsman in that top 4 or 5.
Well, I saw something that he's actually in question to bat at 6, is what they're looking at in terms of I suppose. I mean, I tried to write out my side. Where did I put it down?
Is he like in case of emergency break glass guy at number 6?
No, well, I think more of a it's either him probably, or you're picking Jadeja to bat 6, and then you're picking
17
Nitish
bowlers.
Kumar Reddy, Washington Sundar at sort of 6, 7, 8. And I don't know that you need...
Well, not if they're so dry in England at the moment, they're not going to overpopulate the bowling. You can only bowl 2 bowlers at each end, Stu. I keep reminding you of this. I think they'll go with the extra batsman.
Yeah, so potentially. I mean, look, got Jaiswal. I really am putting all my eggs in the... You've got to give Sai Sudharsan a go now. I think me and Jamie are heads of his fan club. I've loved what I've seen from him over the past couple of seasons. I really, what do you have to say to that?
You're going to make me look foolish again here, Stu. But I just want to point out that the last 2 bats that Karun Nair's had on English soil, he scored over 500 runs.
Well, I wasn't saying that he's not in the team.
Okay, well,
I'm just saying that Sai Sudharsan is opening. We've only got to the openers here.
Oh, he's still on the openers.
You think he's opening?
Sudharsan.
Yeah.
I would bet Sudharsan open, and then you've got Gill. And then I think it gets a bit murky because, you could kind of bet any of those, the rest of the guys sort of anywhere up and down the lineup. But, you've got Rahul, Pant, and then maybe Karun Nair slots in at 6. Then you've got Jadeja, Kumar Reddy. I mean, I'd have, just sort of a lot of different bowlers. I'd probably have Prasidh Krishna, Bumrah and Siraj as my 3 seamers. But, there's Ashdeep Singh's back. There's Akashdeep. There's a lot of options.
I would like to see Nair come in ahead of Rishabh Pant.
Yep.
Especially with Gill batting at 4. So, they've got options. That's the thing. And I think they will go for experience. And they want him, an experienced batsman at the first-class level. So,
What do you guys make of the Shubman Gill appointment in terms of, he's been captain for GT this season. He's he's clearly, they've basically, I saw the Agaka press conference and heard him talk about him. Like they talked about it as this is the start of the new cycle, the 25 to 27 World Test Championship cycle. They talked about it as a kind of now decision, but also a future decision. And I mean, you look at his age, he's been kind of the next guy on, like the next great Indian player that has been they've been tagging, this is the guy, he's coming through, this is going to be him. Now he gets the captaincy. What do you guys think about that?
If I'm honest, what actually muddied the water for me was, when asked why Bumrah didn't get the captaincy, they sort of said they don't think he's going to play every match in a series, probably as a bowler. Where they didn't say that Gill they think is the better leader. And Bumrah's obviously got the sort of dressing room on his side. His performance as captain in that one game in Australia was pretty epic. That's the only thing that muddies the waters for me. I think Gill's a great leader. I think he's going to be in that top 4 for a very long time, 10 years or so to come. So I like it. I like the selection of him as captain. If I'm honest, though, if I had to pick, I probably would have picked Jasprit Bumrah as my captain, but it's hard to pick a captain that is not going to be there.
Binksy?
Yeah. It's as old as the hills, this debate, isn't it? There's not too many seamers that have successfully done it, probably with the in the modern era I'm talking about, probably with the exception of Pat Cummins. And he gets on the park a hell of a lot, doesn't he, Michael? Now, particularly after sort of early career injury worries. So I think it's just that, you never get in trouble for having a top 4 batter as your captain. I think, sort of the sample sizes would say it's less successful when you do it. I don't think that Bumrah not being captain makes his leadership any less impactful. He's still going to be a leader in the squad and on the field. And they've also got, other guys, Ravi Jadeja, Rishabh Pant, they've got so many players that have captained, their IPL franchise or, some other prestigious team at some point that, they've got a bunch of leaders. I've just asked Copilot what the 11 is going to be, by the way. So that's as good a way as doing it as any from this kind of squad. They've gone Gill, Jaiswal, Nair, Sudharsan, Pant, Jadeja, Sundar, Shardul Thakur, Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Simraj.
Come on now.
No, and then Kuldeep Yadav. So there you go.
So AI's still got a bit of work to do as well.
Well, no KL Rahul in that.
Copilot does.
Yeah.
She's a better AI next time. I am really interested about...
Which one should we use, Raj?
Other artificial intelligent large language models are available.
Yeah, look, I'll let you guys do your own, but you don't have to use Microsoft's one. The one thing that does interest me though is Shardul Thakur. There is a lot of talk about Shardul Thakur.
It's bizarre, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, personally, every time I watch him play, I think, kind of, why is he here? But he's had county stints and done a lot over there, as far as I'm aware, Binksy. But I still don't think he's playing in here unless you're having. Yeah, I've written on my piece of paper, why is Thakur in the squad? It doesn't make any sense to me. You look through these bowlers. We've named all these other guys. We've got Shami, who his poor IPL really meant that he's not in this squad.
Well, he didn't seem. He's obviously not match fit if he's not playing now, right?
Yeah,
so.
He didn't look up to it. So there's a lot of better players, I think, than Shardul Thakur in this squad. But I mean, when you look through this lineup, it does feel very much like we are now in the new era, doesn't it? Yeah. Like you look at all these guys, and with no Kohli, with no Sharma, it's not quite inexperienced because you've still got Jadeja and Rahul and Pant and Bumrah. But there's a lot of newer names in there that it's interesting. It'll because you could kind of, I don't know, for the last 10 years we could bank on India. We really have been able to bank on them being an absolutely elite side, even overseas. This side is now going to get the opportunity to prove it in these 5 tests.
I'm very interested in it. I think Rohit Sharma and Kohli sort of shield a lot of the rest of the team from the news cycle. They're gone now. A lot of these players are very, very, very good players, and they've got very strong mentality in how they've sort of played through the grades of Indian cricket. But it's a different sort of level when you've got all the media on you and no one to shield you from it, from the bad performances and things like that. But it is an incredibly impressive side. When you go through the list with Shami out, you've got, you can bring in the Prasadi Krishnas, you can bring in the lefty from Ashdeep Singh. These guys who haven't had much fanfare on the international scene, but that they're just ready. So it's going to be very interesting.
20th of June. And people are probably going, well, there's another game that you guys haven't really talked about on the 11th of June that has a bit of significance, but we'll do a full preview of that next week, won't we? The Australia game versus South Africa for something called the World Test Championship. I think New Zealand won the first edition of that, Baldy.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Well done.
Yeah.
No, you did.
Are you going to watch that, Baldy, or just stay for the chat updates?
No, I think I might try and watch it. Yeah. I mean, work-life balance pending. I may need to bank a few. I may need to bank a few late nights. And
I was going to say, you're not working overnight.
That's true.
Stopping you.
Nothing's stopping me from watching it and then not having any sleep and then going to work the next day completely wide. Look, you're absolutely right. And I hope no one from my work listens to this podcast. So as long as they don't, I'll be able to stay up late and watch some cricket and then go to work the next day and just survive on coffee. But I'm actually really looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be a terrific battle. Lots been said in the build-up by both camps. Lots been talked about in terms of the preparation, and there's a lot of this and at the risk of standing.
For anyone who's just listening, Bull is just making mouth noises with his hands.
Honestly, some of it made me cringe because it felt like 2 heavyweight boxers just talking about the other side and the other camp and the build-up. Just focus on your own cricket, get your processes right.
Still got 11 days to go.
It's like I can't wait for the weigh-in. Someone's going to slap somebody at the
presumably
the
neither team has a warm-up game in England.
Well, it depends on how hospitable the English are, Adam. I think if you're going to
we'll make grounds available, no problem at all.
Yeah, I knew you'd get it sorted out, mate. I knew you'd get it sorted out. I think there'll be a Lions team available at venues of preference for both sides in a full 4-day warm-up fixture if required, if requested. So I'm sure that will get sorted out prior to the event.
Yeah. Well, and I've just further tested Copilot as well, and it thinks Stu's the standout host on the podcast. So there you go.
Clearly, it's struggling today.
It wouldn't answer initially. I said, "Come on, you've got to put your colours to the mast, Copilot." And he said, "All right, I'll make the call." Stu stands out as the best host for sharp cricketing insights and engaging banter. There you go.
Can't argue with that, I guess.
Well,
you could just insert any name in there to that sentence, couldn't you?
Absolutely. Do we want to talk a little bit of New Zealand news, Stu? Because apparently what we're teasing here is that there could be some news next week. Is that have I read that correctly?
That's essentially all I wanted to say about that, is that there has been some... the news cycle coming out is that it is basically down to two coaches, down to Rob Walter and Shane Bond have gone the furthest in the interview process, and one of them may be announced as soon as next week, which essentially means from all reports that we are going forward with a one coach setup, which was the initial discussion. Would Gary Stead be able to stay on it and be the test coach? But it does look like if all reports are correct, then Rob Walter. I mean, personally, I would love both those two. That would be my ideal setup. Like, can we just have them both? And look, I don't know, maybe they'll be able to figure that out. But you would think that when two people go for a high ranking job like this, one of them is going to be left disappointing and not going to be there. But yeah, sounds like we'll get that, and we might even get central contract news next week as well. Apparently, they've been having a big dispute about image and likeness stuff. Sort of not necessarily a dispute, but it's been discussions around kind of I don't know all the things about when
media
you can
rights.
when you can use people's hands and every single thing, like
Feet.
when you can show them in ads and who owns those rights and all that stuff. But it sounds like that has now been sorted, so we might get some.
This is to do with watches and trainers, then, is it?
I don't know. I think it's about showing faces and ads for different companies and whether New Zealand cricket. I don't know. You go and do your own research on image and likeness rights if that's your jam.
Straight onto that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I think it sounds like that is now resolved, and we'll get some central contract news pretty soon as well, which will be interesting because there's a few questions around the New Zealand side, and mainly a lot of guys that took casual contracts and stuff last year. I think Kane's already sort of signalled that he might be doing the same again. But people like Conway and some of the other guys that came back in the mix with the T20 stuff, with the T20 World Cup on the horizon in 2026, where will all those contracts go and who will be available and stuff will be quite interesting, at least for me over here in New Zealand. So, watch this space. Maybe we'll have a bit of stuff to talk about when we preview the World Test Championship next week.
Yeah. Well, Stu, I'm sure if this all comes out in the wash, get it on the breaking news. We'll reconvene like Thunderbirds and have an emergency episode in your feed. But if not, we'll be back this time next week, won't we, to talk World Test Championship final preview, and we'll also obviously review the IPL final. So I can say my predictions completely both gone. Unless there is an absolute miracle, I can't see KKR winning the IPL this year. But we'll have that on next week's show. Any other business, chaps, or are we done for another week of entertaining and insightful banter, according to Copilot?
Copilot's been hired again, yeah. Well done.
Led by charismatic and good-looking, it says here, host. I'm not going to read out who that is. It really doesn't. It really doesn't say that at all.
Are you Copilot? Are you your Copilot? Copilot in the room with us?
No. This is genuine Copilot. I did ask it. I said, "Who is the best host?" I can't find a definitive ranking for the best host. There you go. I said, "Who has the best banter?" I couldn't find a definitive ranking on banter. And I said,
"You're my vote, Binksy."
And then I said, "Copilot, just tell me who's the best." And it said, "All right, I'll make the call. Adam, it's Stu." That's what it said. Yeah. But it's not giving me what I'm wanting. Anyway, computers, eh? Right. That is all we've got. Well, it is all we've got time for, really, to be honest, on the Top Order podcast for this week. Hopefully a full complement of us back to talk World Test Championship final and a wrap-up of the IPL next week. But we'll see you soon on the Top Order podcast. Good night.